Okay, looks like I am live here. Just gonna take a moment to figure out what else is happening. Let's see how we can figure out this YouTube live. It's a nice setting. There it is. Hmm. Ah, welcome, sisters. Welcome to this live. Just felt like going online and sharing with you some crucial information regarding this beautiful part of our body that has that's somewhere been under the shadows. Before we do that, I'm just going to take a moment. If you are watching this, or if you are live, or if you are going to watch the replay, please let me know. Um, what has been your relationship with your pelvic floor? And in the meantime, I'm just going to share the link. Super excited to share more about the pelvic floor. I personally knew very little about this part of the female body until recently, and until pretty much until I started my journey of discovering my sacred sexuality and this whole new world came in front of my eyes, was just put forth for me to understand that already existed in my body and is so important in our day-to-day lives, although we have no much idea how to build an honest relationship with. So what I'm doing here is I am streaming. Let me know where you're joining from and what is your relationship with your pelvic floor? I have been sharing a lot about the JDEG Magic program, and a lot of questions have been coming up around it. We start the JDEG Magic program on the 1st of May, belting, and it is just not a program or a container for you to experience, hot sex and orgasms and all of that, but it's a beautiful container for you to understand the depths of your own feminine wisdom, understand a lot of anatomy about your female body, and also bring home this reverence to something that we have forgotten in our busy lives, this temple body reverence. So I'm here right now on my swing. This is where I do my morning practices most of the days. Let me see if I can show you around. It's and that's the swing. Can't see much, but that's what it is. It's morning 6 a.m. here in India, and you might get to hear birds and all sorts of noise begin just before this, just around this time of the day. So, what has been your relationship? The Jaded Magic program is now open for registration, and the discounted investment closes tonight in a couple of hours. And this is a practice, the Taoist Tantric practice to cultivate more vitality, pleasure, and consciousness inside of your body. And today I want to talk about the vitality part of it. And hence, I want to discuss the pelvic floor in itself. We women know so little about this major part of our body. And whenever something goes wrong with this part of our body, the pelvic floor, which is something below our bellies, below our navel, 3 inches below our navel, and all the things that is are inside, including our uterus, including the ovaries, the vagina, and all of this. We know so little about it, and when something goes wrong, our go-to is of course the medicine, the doctors, and popping the pills, and that in itself is one way to deal it, but that is also not a holistic approach to understanding what else is possible and what can be done in our, what can be included in our daily lifestyle to integrate information, integrate health, integrate safety in that part of our body. So today, I want to talk about two particular myths that is referred to the pelvic floor that I see around, and especially when I talk about the jade egg and use of the yoni egg, there's a lot of confusion around it. Pelvic floor is generally that part of the body that we rarely give thought to, unless we experience a problem such as inconsistence, incontinence, or lower back pain, or sometimes we have issues with lower hips, mobility issues, pain, stress, stiffness. We also have issues like fibroids and PCOS, and so much of what you will read on the internet about the pelvic floor through the lens of the Western medicine is simply not the full picture. And even many yoga teachers, jade egg teachers, the yoni egg teachers don't teach um, the the modality in a way that is susceptible to the female body. If you really look into how yoga was developed, it was developed in ancient times by men for men, and there is nothing wrong with it. It's a very beautiful way of connecting with the mindfulness within. However, our bodies are cyclical, our bodies have different energies on different days. So, a rigid practice always often does not help unlock unlock the fluidity in that area of our body, specifically internally. And having said that, um, it certainly does not help us unlock our sacred feminine wisdoms, the depth of the sacred feminine wisdom that is available to us, the creativity that is available to us. So I need to adjust my curtain. Just a moment. Okay, so when I was reading about this pelvic floor, I saw something like 1 in 3 women. So you will see my face a bit swollen because I just woke up. It's 6 a.m. in India. The sun is just about up. So 1 in 3 women are at the risk of pelvic floor dysfunction. And the pelvic floor in itself, if you look, it's a very complex system. It's a group of more than 16 muscles that weave together to form a dome kind of thing. Different kind of muscles, they weave together to form a dome. to form like a cauldron, a bowl, a big bowl at the lower back of your body. It's like a big bowl, and that's why in many holistic, in ancient traditions, this area of your body is known as the seat of feminine wisdom as well. And the basic function of this part of the body is pretty much digestion, elimination, reproduction, breathing, but most important is balance. This part of the body really supports healthy hormonal balance in women. Yeah, and which is why as we age, it is important that we give notice to the stuffness there, to the stuffness, to the stiffness and the stuckness there. Because often when we feel stiff in our lower part of our body, especially around our hips, lower back, chances are you are stuck in your emotions as well. There is certain suppressed, repressed emotion in you that is wanting to come through. However, either it is not given the space, or either you do not have the understanding to bring it up and work through it. So, a pelvic floor that's under stress could make you feel really emotionally unbalanced, unstable, ungrounded, and scattered in all of the places. And this could happen when there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stress in your life, and there's lots going on, and you are simply going from one thing to the other, rushing around and trying to figure out um, life. What happens is that we go into adrenaline mode, and when we are too long in that state of being, it affects us in many ways in the pelvic floor, majorly because of stress and depletion of certain hormones. And it is important that at this day and age, we begin to cultivate a conscious relationship with this bowl, the seeds of the feminine of our body. And here is the myth. What I see a lot of people talking around is that your pelvic floor needs to be strong enough. It needs to be strong. You need to work to make your pelvic floor strong so that it can hold the organs, so that it can do its job, and all of that. I've seen so many times for this kind of advice in many yoga teacher training, as well as even many uni egg training, that it helps to make your pelvic floor strong. And this is the myth here. You are not looking for a strong pelvic floor. A healthy pelvic floor is the one that is toned, not strong. A pelvic floor which is healthy is toned, not strong. Okay, so it is toned, but also keeps its elasticity. Think of it like a trampoline. It is toned, it is strong, but it is also fluid, flexible at the same time, because it needs to have that so that you can give birth to babies. When we have strong pelvic floor, and this happens to many women as well, when we have strong pelvic floor, when we work towards building strong pelvic floor, what you do is you, in fact, create a lot of tension in the muscles there. And tense and strong pelvic floors are weak organs. So strong is not good. Weak is also not good. What we are looking here is for toning. What we're looking is strengthening your pelvic floor with fluidity, with flexibility. which is why I highly recommend the JREG exercise. Many women have been taught to do dozens and dozens of pelvic floor exercises, which involves squeezing and tightening, tight the vaginal canal and this and that, thinking that they are building strength. But what they are really building is tension, not strength. So the idea is that we get to understand that yes, you can do all the tightening, all the squeezing and strength building exercises, practices for the pelvic floor, but it is also important to maintain the fluidity and the flexibility of the muscles inside. So how do you do that, right? It is something that is going on inside of you. How do you do that? And this is where the yoni egg practice really helps because it, and I'm going to be a bit graphic, because when you insert the yoni egg, in the hole, it goes and works through all the muscles here, through certain breath work, certain movement, sounding as well really helps to tone the internal muscles in ways that simply squeezing and moving your hips in different ways does not fulfill, I must say. So it's nothing wrong in doing the strengthening exercises for pelvic floor. It's important for us women, but we must also concentrate on the fluidity and the flexibility on an internal level. And another interesting thing is how we breathe is directly related to the health of our pelvic floor. But what happens is that if you can feel like we don't breathe free, we breathe only until like here. And because of that, again, a lot of stress is formed in the pelvic floor. So womb breathing, yoni breathing, the lotus bud breathing that I teach inside of the Jadek Magic program is also a really beautiful method to to get that flexibility and make your pelvic floor toned. So another interesting thing is that what I have noticed is, and it was a problem with me, an issue with me, I only figured out when I started working with the pelvic floor, is that some women, like if you have this bowl, let's say this is the bowl of your pelvic floor, some women have one side strong and one side weak. Now, this can depend on your lifestyle. You know how we women are showed to sit cross-legged. So when you sit cross-legged, what is happening? The entire pressure is going on one side of the pelvic floor. Yeah. So if you are in a habit of sitting cross-legged for a prolonged period of time, what you're doing is you are creating a lot of tension on this side of your pelvic floor, and that's not good too. And which is why we have to be mindful of how we even sit for long periods in our day. We've been taught like be a girl, cross your legs and sit down. That's how a girl should do it. If you have that habit of sitting for a long time with legs crossed over the other, please stop that. You're only hurting yourself and you're only also hurting your pelvic floor. The second myth that I really want to break is about KEGELS. KEGELS is a very popular practice recommended by the Western medicine, by the doctors, in order to prevent continence and other pelvic floor related issues. And Kegels create a lot of tension because it works only on making the pelvic floor strong, not flexible, without any strength building practices. Yeah. So you are just tensing up your muscles through the squeeze. there needs to be an equal focus on the release as much as on the squeeze. However, what is taught is, okay, you can be driving and do the Kegels, squeeze, 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 and then go about your day, or be in the gym and do the Kegels. That's not how it fully can sustain a healthy pelvic floor, because that's not just about it. You are not building, as I said, the fluidity. You're not building any strength from the internal side. And a lot of this fluidity can be simply done by beautiful different kinds of breath work and sounding work. It is that easy. Our yoni knows so much, and it is that easy, it is that simple. So unfortunately, it breaks my heart to see that most women who suffer with pelvic floor issues are recommended to use Kegels, but they are not the full and complete answer, not at least for the long term. And the way Kegels are generally taught, they focus on one or just couple of the muscles of the pelvic floor, like one or two, and that is literally like the external and very much like the very few muscles of the pelvic floor. And as I said, when you use the jade egg, it goes all the way in, and it goes and on it sits on your seat, and it has the ability many times when you literally spend 5 minutes of breath, sound, movement, intention with your jade egg in a reverent way. That's just it. Not much to do, no more than that. Yeah. So when you continue doing strengthening through Kegels just for a couple of muscles of your pelvic floor, it creates a lot of instability. And what is also happening on the other side, we are looking at something, a discomfort in our body, just from the perspective of medicine, or what do I say, just the external. What we are not looking into is how we can holistically clear this problem. And most of the times, it is also through emotional work, which we do not concentrate on. We just think if we just work out, we will be healed. But a lot of the problems in our lower hips, in our lower bodies, occur because of unexpressed, unresolved emotions. So hence the jade egg, right? Because it brings up a lot of emotions. The way it is done, and when it is done in a sacred way, you become aware of a lot of emotions that are suppressed, and you begin to learn how to even release it step by step on your own. It's a way of self priestessing. That's what I like to call. And another thing about the Kegels is that it was developed by a doctor in the 1940s, and he created a series of exercise to strengthen women's pelvic floor. Interestingly, yeah, right. Maybe he was really interested in women's pelvic floor, and I want to give credit to his work because his exercises worked. Specifically, his exercises were around preventing urinary incontinence and eliminating that. So he was really successful in curing his patients of that condition. And the Kegel that he taught was very different from what we are being told these days. In his exercises of Kegels, and I think the doctor's name was Arnold Kegel or something, and hence the name Kegels came up into existence. So in his exercises also involved inserting a kind of a device inside of the vagina, and then you insert that device, and then you learn different types of contraction, isolation, of the pelvic floor muscles throughout the vaginal canal. Yeah. So It was very similar to what we do inside of the Jade Egg program, instead of the use of yoni egg in a holistic way. But the Kegel balls these days are not an equivalent. So what I want to say is that when you want to do something for your body, do it in a way which is holistic, do it in a way that enhances your connection with the body, do it in a way that brings you back to the safety of your body. Because otherwise what you're doing is you are coming to this feminine entity in a masculine way, and I see a lot of women, even teachers, doing the feminine work in a masculine way, and you're doing that the same way as you're living your life and living our lives in this male-dominated, patriarchal, masculine, um, structured society has caused us enough harm, has caused us a lot of disconnection from our bodies. So when there is something going on that is wrong, you feel within yourself, specifically because of high stress and emotional overwhelm, this is the moment you've got to come back to holistic practices. This is the moment you've got to understand that devoting time to sit with your body and do the work is the work. Not just popping a pill and going about your day, not just doing few squeezes and thinking it's all sorted, not just also relying on the doctors to figure out everything for you while you recover. So a lot of conditions around PCOS can be also um, I don't want to put a disclaimer like it can be cured, although I have a lot of clients who suffer with PCOS to who have gotten over that condition just because they were beginning to bring back to its natural state the very ecosystem of our yoni through certain practices. So here I am to invite you to look into this part of your body with reverence. And if you are called into jump inside the JREG Magic program, that the discounted option closes today. And what we're going to do is learn beautiful journey of coming home to our body that includes pleasure, that includes a lot of understanding of our female anatomy, that includes a lot of understanding of our emotional realm, and most importantly, that includes or that will lead to a lot of understanding of what it is that you are called to birth in the world now in your life, how you are called to lead your life. It's a place of coming back to sovereignty from what we've been taken away from. So I hope this share helped you in any way or the other. If you have any questions about the program or about the use of the JNEG, then you can feel free to ask me. I'm mostly available on Facebook, Exploring Femininity. I'm here to answer your questions. And I hope that I'm able to inspire you to try something new for yourself this year. Why not, right? There is no harm, and I promise you'll be in safe hands. So have a beautiful rest of the day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.